So just try that. It's just lacking a bit of body. It's quite nice. It's just lacking a bit of body. So I'm going to go and have a look at my my extraction here. It could be to do with this, where I've got, looks like I've got the channeling, bit of water through. Just have a look at what else I can get from this. My pre-infusion time here, you can see is 11 seconds. It tells me up there it's 11 seconds, and that's when the coffee starts going into the cup. We can see here that the weight starts to increase, and then from there the weight increases and matches the flow, and we want those to be fairly even. It may increase, the weight may increase with respect to flow over time slightly, but you want that fairly even. Basically what that means is that the amount of water that's going in is equal to the amount of water coming out, so that tells us that the pre-infusions has been good, that there's not water going in still soaking into the coffee grinds, because they're already saturated, so the water's coming out, and because it's taking some coffee out with it, we will see a slight increase in the weight compared to the flow going in. Now we have a look at our extraction time. So the weight on here is not accurate, because it's showing when it turned off, it's still got some pressure here, and there's a valve that releases the pressure from the group so that we don't take it off and goes everywhere. And what that does is goes down through a tube into the drip tray at the back, and the machine's continuing to measure the weight up until after that's drained through the tray. It'd be better if it cut off before, but anyway, that's how it is. So we're just relying on that it cuts off at our set weight, which was 30 grams. And I know it's done that because our curve here hasn't timed out, and it hasn't come down to zero, so it's cut out prior to our cut-off time. I had it set at 20 something seconds. If we go in here and have a look, we can see the decline is 29 seconds, and the pour's only been for 17 seconds, so it has cut off with the weight. So everything looks good there. I generally like that to go a bit more, for the pressure to come down a little bit more, and this messed up here, so that could explain why my drink tastes a little bit watery. The flavour's nice, it's not bitter at all, but it's just lacking a little bit of body, which could be to do with that. The other thing, that the coffee beans are starting to get on the older side for what I like. They're just over 3 weeks old now, past roast date. I don't use them for at least 4 days, sometimes up to 7 days, and then I start using them. And I find that the fresher the beans, the more coarse the grind is to keep this consistent. As they age a bit, I make it a bit finer. So if we have a look here at the flow, we're getting up above 2, so that can explain why it might be a bit tastes a bit watery to me, a bit thin as well, not as much body, is because the flow rate's a bit higher than what I like. I find about 1.5 mil per second is the benchmark I sort of aim for. Some people go for a slower flow. I find anywhere from 1 to 2 gives me fairly consistent and pretty good coffee. So I aim for 1.5, and then with the age of the beans, it does sort of shift either side. So here I started out below 2, but it's gone up about 2.5 now. Ideally I'd like that a bit lower, a bit slower flow rate. And what I would normally do now is just adjust the grind very slightly, so that the grinds are finer, and it causes more back pressure and then I'll get a slower flow. So there are two things there, but at this stage I'm not going to muck around with it because I'm not sure why I'm getting that problem. It looks like it could be channeling. So anyway, that's it. The coffee tastes alright, so I'll finish it off rather than make it a new one, but that's my process. Thank you. Well, I decided to make another coffee. Decided to make another coffee. I like good coffee, not subpar, so grabbing some new milk, and it's not that expensive. I'd rather enjoy a nice coffee than have one that's tasting a little bit thin or a bit watery. So we're going to have another go at it. I'll demonstrate the process again while that's heating up. Just make sure there's no water in my milk jug. Pour the milk. Back in the fridge. Okay, that's ready to go. It says ready on there. Take that out, give it a bit of a wipe. Funnel on. I've got 18.6 this time. I did make the grind slightly finer, which is why the weight went up. Next time it'll even out to the right weight. It's got some sort of intelligent or algorithm in there that makes an adjustment. The tamp. On. Right, so I'll just give the machine I'll just give it a shake here, and I'll have a look at my scale. Make sure that there's a bit of influence there. Just making sure that vibration from the machine doesn't affect the weight, so that's not the problem. Okay, so we'll do the. Give you a look at the extraction here. Just doing the final heat. Okay, so pre-infusion starts. Running for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, so 11 seconds, which is pretty good, and now our pour starts there. You can see on our graph that the lines joined up. I'll show you that in a minute. And our scale's ticking away here, and when it gets to 30 grams, the extraction will stop and will release the pressure so that no more coffee comes out. Okay, now if we have a look here, nice and smooth. I didn't get any spurt in weight, so if I take that, have a look at that puck now, we'll probably see there's no channeling. Enlarge that to have a look, and we can see that my flow's about 2. I'm still getting up a bit higher at the end there, so what I can do is decrease that time so that the pressure drops off quicker, try and level that out a bit more, but again it's not too bad. We can see here 11 seconds, our weight starts going up at 11 seconds. That's where our pour started, our pre-infusion finished and our pour started, and what we want to do is get those lines to meet reasonably quick. I find that's about as good as I get, and then we want to keep them pretty well even all the way along there. So I'm pretty confident this one's going to taste a bit better. If I wanted to, I could make the grinds a bit finer again. I gave them a little bit of adjustment, and I think it probably could do it a bit more to bring that down to that 1.5. Between start at 1 here and maybe go up to 1.5, keep it below 2. Or the other thing I can do, because there is a rise there to try and keep it flat, is I can bring that back instead of 29 seconds, bring it back to say 25 seconds, and basically that makes it drop off per time quicker. So I'll just go OK there, and we can see here our pour was 20 seconds for that, so 25 seconds still keeps us past the weight. It gives a little bit of margin there, so that make sure we reach our target weight of 30 grams. But the curve drops off quicker per time, so that should give us a more level flow rate out for this profile. So there's our coffee there. These are clean. We have a look there. There's no holes, so it looks quite good. Give that a quick rinse out under the tap. A bit of a dry with our cloth. Right, now grab a damp cloth here, and I'll just give that a wipe in a circular motion. You can see all the coffee wipes off there. Now I go in a circular motion because you don't want to wipe the coffee onto the seal, otherwise you get some leaks there. And from there I go to the flush. I've got that set for 3 seconds. There seems to be plenty of water that comes out, so I start that, and just it pours a bit of water through the group there to flush out any coffee I might have wiped into the holes there. So now we're done with that. I just sit that back in nice and loose, just so that it heats up next time we do it, nice and warm. Keep it nice and warm. So we're right to go to steam now. So we've got our milk. Now with the steam, we've also got a graph here, which is very handy. It's a new feature for the software. You can see here a bit of fluctuation here, but it's nothing compared to what happens when you start getting problems with the steam one. I've had a couple of times now where the steam one has had a bit of milk dried on the end of it, or I suspect there's milk dried on the end of it and it's clogged up a bit, and the graph here I get a bit of a sine wave showing on the graph, and it's mirrored by the flow as well. The pressure's mirrored by the flow, and what I've done is I've got a little tool I use. It's just a little pin basically. It's got a handle on it, and put that into the hole there, and I'll just give that a wiggle around, wipe it around the hole, to dislodge any dried milk that might be stuck in there. And I find when I've had that oscillation or that sine wave curve on the display there, giving that a clean seems to fix it for some time. So I'm confident that's what's causing the problem in this case. You also notice on here these little short pulses here, and what that is, there's the firmware now has auto purge, and when we steam and we time out, the timer cuts the steam out here at 44 seconds, turns off, and the machine keeps pulsing little faint puffs of steam out through the wand. And the idea of that is to prevent this milk from siphoning back up as the wand cools a little bit, to make sure it stays unclogged. And then after you finish, you press the stop button, and it gives a bigger purge of steam to make sure it cleans it right out. But we don't see that on the graph because it stops graphing as we press that button. So anyway, the process I do for steaming the milk is I stick the wand in. Now I stick it below the surface to start. I press start, and I hold my hand here just soon as it starts steaming, I pick it up so it stops boiling, and just have it just above the surface. You want that sort of rippling sound there to indicate you're sucking steam down or sucking air down with the steam into the milk. And I maintain that for the first 20 seconds, about half the steam time. And I find that gives me plenty of air in there, almost a cappuccino type foam. And then I sink the tip just below, and I try and keep that churning as much as I can. The faster that spins around with the air in there, the more it foams up the protein in the milk. So that's the goal, but you just want to be careful it doesn't spill over the side by churning too much. Right, so that's timed out now, turned off, and we can see here little puffs there. I'm not sure if you can see any milk on the end, but little puffs there, just making sure no milk siphons up until we press stop. I like to clean the wand pretty quick because you can see there, even though it took too long there, you can see the milk's dried on it, and it can be quite hard to get off. And the more that happens, the more milk that burns dry on the tip of the wand, the harder it is to clean it off. So I like to clean fairly quick, and then press stop, and I get that final surge or purge, if you like. And you can see it's quite vigorous. Anyway, so that's our steaming done. One of the things I don't like about it is if I'm steaming and I stop the steam manually instead of letting the time out. If that purge happens fairly quick after stopping, and sometimes I can be steaming like this, press stop, and then I take my jug away like this, but before I take my jug away, I get that big purge of steam and puts milk out everywhere. It sprays it out everywhere. So anyway, something to be aware of, but I believe that's going to change with some updates. There's been a few concerns about it. So that's my coffee there. Put my quarter dash of caramel in, just a bit of a sweet tooth. So I've got a fair bit of foam there, pour that in. So now I give the jug a rinse out. I generally keep the jug in the fridge. It's just something that, just an old habit, I guess. I was taught that a cool jug means that it takes longer for the steam to heat the milk to the same temperature. So the longer you steam for, the better foam you get. But in practice, I find it doesn't really make much difference. The temperature difference for the same time is very minimal. Anyway, that's where I keep it. So there's my coffee. Yep, that's heaps better, that one. I like it. Turn that off to screensaver, to standby, turns the machine off. And that's us done until tomorrow. Cheers.